Hi, guys. Welcome to the Church Split. My name is Will, and today we're talking about the Sam Allberry situation and him stepping back from ministry due to having a relationship with another man that was apparently inappropriate. But before we get into all that, don't forget to like and subscribe and do all those things. It really does help the channel, especially right now, because I don't know if you guys know this right now, but YouTube is doing a big push on short form content like shorts and stuff. So it makes it really hard for people who make longer form content to hit the algorithm. So it is killing channels like mine, and especially if you're a Christian, you're already in a niche, and then they're pushing short form content, and short form content only rots your brain. It actually doesn't allow you to get a fully orbed nuance of these situations and all this stuff. So be part of that resistance. Like that button, okay? It's free. And if you want to make it not free, you can support me on Patreon. But until then, you just hit like and comment. All right, do all those things. But now let's go ahead and talk about this, because Sam Allberry had to step down. And you guys might notice on this channel, I don't cover scandals nearly as much as I used to. And it's mainly because, one, they're depressing. Two, you can only say so much of the same thing over and over again before you're like, look, I've already said it 1,000 times on all the other scandal videos. I'm over covering the same things. However, this one is a bit different. And the reason why is not just because it deals with the same sex relationship, but because I've actually recommended Sam Allberry's work on this channel. You can go to my Theology of the Body playlist and you'll notice I recommend some of his work there. And so I feel like as someone who's recommended his work and it being a slightly different situation over here than normal, that I should probably address it. And mainly because I don't want to sit here and be recommending someone's work without acknowledging the elephant in the room, that sort of thing. And that's what makes it frustrating when you recommend anyone's work nowadays, because sometimes you're like, please don't fail. Like, don't fail where you're going to embarrass all of us and make us be like, ooh, maybe I never should have recommended you. But here's the problem with that mindset. And I want to go ahead and nip this in the bud now. And it's mainly because a lot of times we think that because someone failed, therefore we got to remove all their stuff. In fact, we're going to talk about how that's happened already. And the issue with that is the fact that I don't think that just because someone says a true thing over here and then fails over here, that suddenly it means that we have to get rid of all their true things that they've ever said. We still read Psalms and we still love the book of Psalms. And yet most of it was written by David, who also committed horrible atrocities with Bathsheba, right? So I think we can acknowledge two things at the same time. We can say mankind sinful does sinful things. Also, mankind can say truthful things, especially when it's about God and all that sort of thing. Does that make sense? Hope that makes sense. Now, with that, let's quickly just read the statement from church leaders right here. We'll read this and then we'll comment as we go. So Pastor Sam Allberry, an apologist, author, and speaker, has been disqualified from ministry by the elders at Immanuel Nashville. The church where Allberry served as associate pastor for engaging in an inappropriate relationship with an adult man. Allberry grew up in England and became a Christian when he was 18. And when he was 15, Allberry became aware that he was same-sex attracted. During his years of ministry, Allberry has spoken openly about his same-sex attraction, seeking to help others put their faith in Jesus. Now, here's the thing that I'm seeing a lot right now, which is a lot of people, there's two ditches. One group is saying that, well, because he's same-sex attracted, he should never be in ministry and never, ever, ever should that ever happen. And then the other group is saying that, oh, you conservative Christians, he's being sexually oppressed and he's not allowed to be his true self because you guys are mistranslating the word arsenokoitai. We're not, but the progressive arguments. And you're basically gonna have heresy being spewed and nonsense spewed from the progressives. And then you're gonna have some people be like, oh, if he's same-sex attracted, he can't serve in ministry. And some of them would say you shouldn't even go to church or whatever. I'm going to politely disagree with both. And here's why. It's because I don't think people wake up in the day and just go, yeah, I want to be attracted to what I'm attracted to. I think a lot of people have attractions for various reasons and they experience different attractions. And if we are going to be consistent, I think it's going to be really hard to be consistent on that attraction thing when you realize that, let's say you are a straight man and you're married to a wonderful woman, and then an attractive woman walks by and you suddenly realize, oh, she's attractive. And now you're attracted to her. Now here comes the question. What do you do with that attraction? Do you take a second look? Do you ponder it further? Do you lust after her? Or do you just acknowledge she's attractive and then move on? What we do with our attractions is ultimately what matters, not necessarily that you might experience one, because you can't help what you experience, but you can help what you feed. So if you pursue those attractions further, that's when it really becomes sinful. That's what James says. If we are enticed by our own desires, that is what leads to sin. And especially when we act out on them, but not when you just notice that, oh, I found that attractive, but move on, right? And what can help you with that is it can help you actually learn to resist temptation. It can train yourself not to take that second look, not to sit there and ponder on a sinful thought. It can help you actually conform to the image of Christ and forsake the flesh. Because here's the reality. We are all called to one sexual standard, which is You can have sex with your spouse if they are of the opposite sex. Therefore, you must be married with them. So one man, one woman, under one marriage, under one God for one life, right? That is it. That is what we're all called to, sexually speaking. Anything outside of that, pornography, fornication, adultery, same-sex relationships, or otherwise, are all considered sexual immorality. If we're going to draw that line, we better draw it very consistently, right? So this is going to be, I think, helpful for some people because you need to acknowledge the fact that you might not be able to control the fact that you are attracted to something, but how you respond to those attractions are ultimately what matter. And you do not want to just say, well, I'm a this attracted person. Like I'm a same-sex attracted person. Well, don't take that, because then what you're saying is like, well, if I'm a gay Christian, but I just don't act out on it, what you're saying is that there is no hope for you to not be gay, right? You're basically saying that I am taking this as part of my identity. It's just part of who I am. It's part of my nature. That is a problem. This flawed nature idea of I am what this is. Don't take that on as part of who you are. You're an image bearer of God who can conform the image of Christ. And just as God told Cain in the garden, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it. You can do that. And also, over time, you can die to the flesh and be alive to Christ. And when you do that, you put your desires to death, you will find yourself being able to control your desires better. But let's keep moving on the article. Okay, the article says this. He has written for the Gospel Coalition, Desiring God, Living Out, and he is the author of numerous books, including Is God Anti-Gay? And What God Has to Say About Our Bodies. By the way, that's a great book. And Biblical Manhood. At Immanuel Nashville, Allberry served alongside lead pastor T.J. Timms and assistant pastor Barnabas Piper, Vince Greenwald, and Tony Shepard. The church also lists Russell Moore, Ray Ortland, and Gavin Ortland as leaders in residence. Now, a few things here. One of the other things I've heard people say is that, and because what they did is the Gospel Coalition ripped all his books and resources off of their website. I always find this to be a relatively odd thing to do. I found it odd when the Newsboys did it, when Michael Tate came out, where they removed all of their songs from like Christian radio and stuff. And the reason I find it odd is because the entire band, for example, in that situation, because of Michael Tate's sin, the entire band gets what? Canceled. In this situation, were the things that he said in those books, were they accurate? Were they right? Were they good? Okay, great. Because two things can be true at once. Mankind can be foolish and make stupid, sinful decisions. And also mankind can say true things about God. Those two things can be true at once, and you don't need to cancel one for the other. You can just say, this is wrong, condemn it outright, and then move on and say, hey, but these are good resources. He should have listened to his own words here, which he should have, because I've read his books. He should have listened to his own words on this stuff. But you'll also notice some of the names associated with this, which is Barnabas Piper, Gavin Ortland, on and on I could go. You guys might notice these are big Calvinist names. Well, that's another problem. Calvinism, it's really funny how a lot of these Calvinist churches have a lot of these sorts of scandals. And I'd be interested if there's a correlation or a causation here, right? Because Calvinism teaches a few things. One, that you are totally depraved by nature. So Sam said, I have this, this is just what I am. Well, yeah, because he thinks that his nature is totally depraved. Now, just because I think a lot of his stuff on theology of the body, again, two things can be true at once. His Calvinism can be garbage, but his theology of the body stuff could be really good. Same thing with this, right? But his Calvinism is saying that this is his nature. This is the way he is. There's no hope beyond it besides Christ. And that's if you're elect, right? And also that God decrees all things that come to pass. So here's the thing. If you don't fall into sexual sin, if Sam doesn't fall into sexual sin, ultimately that was the will of God. He predestined him not to. It was foreordained for the foundations of the earth. But if he does fall into sin, that also was decreed by God. And he is also still glorifying God, because if you obey Christ, it glorifies God. And if you disobey Christ, you are also glorifying God, because now God is going to glorify his judgment and everything else on you, because you are following now his secret will, right? His secret will was that you would fall, right? This is part of his decretive will. His decreeing will says that you would fall into sexual sin, but his revealed will is that you wouldn't. And these wills are in conflict to each other, and they can never, ever be like resolved, right? And they will sit there and try to get into primary, secondary causes, but that just pushes the can down the road one more step. So bottom line is that what's built into Calvinism is the fact that they could not have done otherwise. They're evil, wicked, filthy worms that are totally depraved and unable to choose God unless he chooses them. So because that's built into the system, I can't help but wonder whenever this happens with any of the Calvinist leaders, if that is one of the reasons why, whether they're aware of it or not, whether or not there's like some sort of self-conscientious thing in there that they might not even realize, they might be oblivious to. This does impact the way you walk, because I live in a world where I believe I actually make actual choices. I have the ability to choose right, to choose wrong. I'm an image bearer of God. I can choose the path of life or the path of death, but they think that they're just totally depraved by nature. So I can't help but wonder if there is something to that psychologically that might lean one over to doing something like that because, oh, it's just my sinful flesh. I can't control it. Yes, you can, right? So don't know, but just curious if that's a thing. TJC was informed yesterday. Yeah, the Sam Allberry had an inappropriate relationship with another man a few years ago, and that announcement would be made today. And then they say that they're heartbroken over the news. It sucks because now comes the other question. I know he resigned. Was that something that he resigned for because he was repentant and he felt guilty, felt like he should be open about it? Was he blackmailed into it? Or did he just completely apostatize and just go, I'm going to live the life that I want to live and then just bail? I don't know. We don't have that data in front of us. So I'm just going to go by the information I have in front of me. But there could be other information that comes out that changes my response here. And I think that it would be very obvious as far as discernment is concerned. Like if he apostatized, that's a totally different thing. But if he came forward and just admitted it, stepped down in a repentant manner, looking for restoration, I actually think that's very good. And I think that the church should come around him and lift him up in prayer and in mentorship and all of those things, and then get a better view of man's anthropologies. That way he is not a Calvinist anymore and can actually think that he makes actual choices as an image bearer of God, crowned with God's glory and all those things. So with that being said, I would be curious if that's the case. But if that's the case and he is that way and he has fully repented, then I would say that the church should surround him and restore him. And after now they've rebuked him, now they can work on trying to heal him. I think though that would be a good and profitable thing to do. Now, granted, if it's the other stuff and he's just rebellious and all that stuff, okay, that's a totally different story. But I have to go with the data that's in front of me. And right now it seems like he actually just voluntarily did this, which I think is good. It means that he admits that it's a sin and that what he did was wrong. Now, some people are going to make a big deal because of same sex. Again, I do think same sex is totally against God's intended design. I think it is an abomination to God. I think it is an absolute sin. But I also think that some people blow that stuff up where also, yeah, you know what else is? Fornication, pornography. These things are also abominable sins that are highly destructive in any realm that they're in. So we're all called to one thing, which is the same sexual ethic. Christianity is not hateful for teaching it. It is not oppressive for teaching it. You're supposed to be one husband, one wife, under one God for one life, right? Like that's the idea. And if it violates that, then it violates that. And then it's a sin and we need to correct it as is. But bottom line is would I still recommend his books? Probably, because I think he has some really good stuff in there. Also, the theology of the body stuff is rough. It explains probably why he had such a theology of the body kind of obsession and bend. And that was because he's probably wrestling with this side of him, this sinful attraction that he has, that he unfortunately never fully disowned and in fact, apparently embraced. The reality is attractions and lust can impact any Christian on any level. I remember as a young man, like being in my teenage years, in my early 20s, I was like, how is this ever a thing that can be overcome? Just overwhelmed as a teenager when you have, you hit puberty, testosterone's running through your system and you're like, what is this? And I remember feeling like it was such a Mount Everest that would never be able to be conquered. And that's also because at the time I accepted a lot of total depravity and stuff like that too, which did not help. And maybe that's why I psychologize on some of this stuff, because I know it did impact the way I viewed God and viewed myself. But what helped me, and this is what I wish Sam would have done, what helped me is to say no every single time when those situations came up. If the opportunity came up, learning to say no to it. If the temptation arose, learning to say no to it. And over time, it built into a habit. And then eventually it got to the point where my mind didn't even wander that much because I was already pre-trained to not acknowledge it. And it took me a long time to get there. But I can say that there's been actual sanctification in my life from that. I can see where I was and where I'm at now, all these years later, and go, wow, I have made some serious spiritual progress because I learned to say no to these feelings and not to take the second look, not to engage in that thing that I want to engage in, not to talk to that person I want to talk to or whatever. Learning to say no to those things actually helped me. It's because I knew that I could actually do what God said I could do, which is I can be conformed to the image of Christ. I can say no to sin that's crouching at the door. He does always make a way of escape for me. He has not predetermined my path, but he gives me actual autonomy and free will. And so doing that, it made me go, I want to make my king happy. So I kept, and I want to honor him and all of the things I said and do. So I kept trying to obey him. And I'm not saying I was perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it became a lot easier. Now at 34 years old, it's like a gnat that just kind of buzzes around. And, it's a little annoying. Sometimes you have to swat it, but that's about it. The other thing is it's really frustrating when this happens with people who've been in the ministry for a long time. It's like, dude, you were this close to the end. You were in it for so long. Why yes now? All you had to say was no a few more times and you would have made it. It's so frustrating because then now their entire legacy gets kind of tarnished because then you get the people, will we cancel them? Can we cancel them? Should we cancel them? All those sorts of things. Now, I'm always of the vein that we should always just take the truth where the truth is and then condemn the sin where the sin is, and then also respect the sinner as a sinner and call them to repentance and restoration. And if they don't, then of course, cast them out like Matthew 18 says. But that's always been my position. I just feel like it's the most balanced. I feel like it makes the most sense because otherwise what we do is all we do is cancel and kick them out. Well, we're all ultimately encouraging is people to live with their sins secretly. I don't think that's good. I think we should encourage people to be open about their sins so that way we can bring restoration and healing. But also, I don't think it's good for us to say that, well, it is just what it is. You have no choice. No, that's bad too. So I think we need to, there's a little balance here that we all need to find in that middle ground, right? So anyhow, guys, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. Do you think someone who experiences same-sex attraction can serve in ministry? The other question is, do you think that those materials should be removed and no one should recommend those sorts of things? Let me know also down and below if you think Calvinism plays a factor in this. I'd be curious everyone's thoughts. Let me know, and I'll see you in the next one.